One of the hardest things you are going to have to try and do in life is figure out who you are. And not all of it is up to you. That may be a controversial thing to say these days. And don't get me wrong, plenty of it will be. The alternative is worse because maybe other people will decide who you are for you. But, there are long-term effects on your brain development that happen when you are still in utero. If your mother is stressed out when she's pregnant with you, that can affect the ratio of your prefrontal cortex to your amygdala. We'll get into that sometimes because that can cause all kinds of problems. And psychology is known for a very long time that childhood experiences seem to have a vastly disproportional effect on our development, both positive and negative, and both become sort of feedback loops which build on each other over time. I haven't even gotten into puberty yet, which is of course a special time for all of us. And it's that special time in the video where I ask you to please smash the like button, give me a sub, leave a comment or a question below. So far the algorithm doesn't like me much. I'm worried it may have been talking to my ex. I'm just saying there's two sides to every story. Okay, so this is a case where the psychobabble I'm likely to use is probably familiar to you already, or you might not have clicked on the thumbnail as it is, given the kind of technical sounding title. In psychology, these words do get used a little differently than they do in the common parlance. If you said of something, gee, that guy has a huge ego, it of course would not be a compliment. We tend to think of ego as someone's sense of self-importance, which is actually more along the lines of narcissism, which is named after the Greek myth of Narcissus, who died of thirst while staring at his own reflection in a pool of water. The idea was that Narcissus mistook his image for who he actually was, and so forgot to satisfy the needs of his real being, even though the way to do so was right in front of him. Ego is taken from the Latin, meaning simply I. When psychologists talk about the ego, however, they mean the part of you that you think of as you, the one that's looking out through your eyes, inhabiting your body, somewhat terrifyingly located at the exact center of the entire universe. Many of these concepts go back to early depth psychology. Freud and Jung prominently featured among the figures who did it. Now, I did a video on Jung I would encourage you to watch. To simplify the premise of depth psychology, at least a bit, it states, as has been thoroughly proven at this point, a major part of who you are is unconscious. It seemed like a crazy idea at the time it was first proposed, and there are even those who still resist it. I once had an argument with someone, and, actually I argue with people all the time. But this particular time, I told somebody that I thought they were making decisions based on subconscious motivations, to which she responded she didn't have subconscious motivations. And so I said, everyone has subconscious motivations, and when you pretend you don't, you become enslaved to them. Ha! And I guess it struck a nerve because she said, I'm leaving you for another man. Again, this is not a channel for relationship advice. Moving on. If you are interested in learning more about the subconscious, I would not recommend this book, The Discovery of the Unconscious, because it is really long and incredibly boring, and I read this so that you don't have to, and you should thank me for it. Freud called the discovery of the unconscious man's third great insult, the first being Copernicus, showing Earth was not at the center of the cosmos, the second being Darwin, who showed man as just another animal subject to evolutionary pressures, and Freud, kind of touting his own horn and somewhat inappropriately taking credit for all of it, gave himself the role of being man's third great insulter by saying that most of who we are is composed of unconscious drives we have little to no control over. The ego on that guy. The second concept is persona. This is who we present to the world as ourselves, which is in some ways a construction we create from interactions between our conscious ego and our subconscious. This is social media, so I don't feel like we need to belabor this point. I'm thinking millennials and Gen Z know all about the persona, whether or not they'd ever heard the word before. If you randomly sampled me hanging out in my apartment, there's a good chance you would catch me in dirty jeans eating something over the sink, or possibly doing something much worse. For all you know, I'm wearing dirty jeans right now, or a tutu. I'm not. My jeans are, well, I think they're clean. They're clean for me. So, look, I am of the opinion that psychologists should know more than anyone that we are all presenting personas to the world, and so we step into our role as psychologists. We should formalize our wardrobe a bit. Getting into the concept of the self, we need to go back to our previous discussion about childhood development. Children don't generally have a super strong sense of the self. The ego, which only begins to emerge in late childhood and gets supercharged during puberty when, despite the fact that our bodies and our brains are far from being completely developed, the raging hormones within us say, start breeding before you get eaten by a cave bear or something. Despite the nearly overwhelming mind fog this creates, the ego, and particularly the persona we choose to present to the world, become much more prominent. The self is different. Not only because it takes more time, it tends to take a certain amount of intentionality as well. The self is a more holistic being, as it will incorporate more self-knowledge, particularly about what is going on in the subconscious. It only takes being asked, why are you like this so many times before you actually start to ask yourself that. However, humans are very good at rationalizing things after the fact and living with amounts of cognitive dissonance that just boggle the mind. Examining the entirety of your being can often be an extremely difficult and even dangerous amount of soul searching, where you encounter the otherness within yourself. With enough work, however, the kind of self-knowledge that emerges can be incredibly powerful. It does not tend to happen until midlife, which some would say is the age I am now, but the idea that I'm going to live to be 108 is just absurd. With my habits, that is not going to happen. Lastly, identity, which has become more of a political term in recent years and does not really have a major place in psychological jargon. We do seem to use it as a marker for category or a label, and labels in particular can often turn out to do more harm than good. But let's say it turns out maybe you have kind of a quirky identity and you really, really like wearing ascots even though no one else does. I'm telling you, though, these things are so much more comfortable than ties. I'm bringing them back. For this, I would actually like to refer you to someone else's video. ContraPoint's, I think it's 3-hour-long video on the Twilight movies is absolutely superb. All of her work is. And it's really actually all I know about the Twilight movies other than the 10 minutes of my life I will never get back after trying and failing to watch the first one. There's a link in the description. What she does on that episode is to point out how strange so-called heteronormative lifestyles actually are. That's both the good news and the bad news. Everyone is weird. Everyone is bizarre. No one is actually normal. And I really encourage you to watch that. I would also like to encourage you to like and subscribe. Leave me a question or a comment below. Maybe check out my research project, which you can help me with. There's a link for all these things in the description. Turn on notifications. I'm going to be turning these things out quick as I can for a little while. If you like psychological theory, I hope you will become part of what I am trying to build here. Thanks, and take care of yourself.